The clock ticked steadily in the background, its rhythmic beat echoing like a distant drum roll, a cruel reminder of just how long it had been since she walked out that door. I stood silently by the window, watching the evening shadows stretch long and thin across the driveway. My fingers curled tightly around the edge of the curtain, icy against the fabric, but I didn't move. I couldn't. Not tonight. Tonight, I waited, not just for her to return, but for the moment where the truth would finally crash into fragile silence we'd been living in. She didn't know I had found out. Not about the hushed late-night phone calls that ended too quickly when I entered the room. Not about the cryptic messages tucked behind lock screens. Not even about the hotel receipt I discovered, folded and hidden like a secret love letter in the lining of her purse. But I knew, and tonight I was done pretending. When I first met Sophia, it felt as if the universe had finally made sense. She was dazzling, sharp-witted, magnetic, with a laugh that seemed to shimmer through the air and settle into the corners of any room. From the first conversation, it felt like we were two pieces of the same storm. We understood each other. She was charging ahead in her marketing career, and I was climbing steadily as a manager at one of the city's most reputable hotels. We thrived on ambition, on the adrenaline of progress, and it bonded us. Weekends were sacred. We hiked rugged trails and cooked extravagant meals just for fun of it. There was laughter, inside jokes, and this incredible sense of partnership, like we were building something real, something rare. But things don't fall apart all at once. At first, it was subtle. A late night here, an unexpected trip there. I told myself it was her job. Marketing is demanding, and she had always been dedicated. I wanted to be supportive, even as her presence began to feel more like a memory than a reality. The warmth between us, once effortless, started to fade into awkward silences and distracted nods. I clung to denial until the cracks became impossible to ignore. One night, we sat together on the couch, a movie playing in the background, and her phone lit up on the coffee table. It buzzed once. Then again, she grabbed it so quickly, as if it might explode in my hands. Her fingers trembled slightly as she turned the screen face down and silenced it without looking. "Who's that?" I asked, forcing my voice into something casual, something I hoped didn't sound like suspicion. "Just a client," she said. The lie was obvious, not because of her words, but because of the way they stumbled out too fast, too rehearsed. Her eyes didn't meet mine, and for the first time, I saw something in them that made my stomach tighten. Fear. That night, the seed of doubt became something darker, something I could no longer ignore. I waited for the right moment, unsure if I wanted the truth or just the illusion of it to last a little longer. But the moment found me. She had stepped out for a meeting, another urgent call she couldn't avoid. I sat alone in our quiet apartment, the silence pressing in like fog. My gaze fell on her laptop, half open on the dining table. I sat down. My heart thudded in my chest like a warning. My hands shook as I moved the cursor. I opened her email, and there it was, undeniable, devastating. A string of emails between Sophia and someone named Adrian. Not just flirtation. These were confessions, plans, desires, weekends spent wrapped in sheets, late dinners laced with wine and promises, words exchanged that once had been mine. Adrian, the name slapped me in the face. Not a faceless stranger. I knew him. I had met him at one of Sophia's work functions. He'd stood beside her with effortless charm, the kind that makes you feel seen and dismissed all at once. A perfect smile, a strong handshake. I remember thinking how comfortable they looked together. Now I knew why. The cold in my hands crept up my arms as I sat there, staring at the screen, watching a fragment of our life fall apart in black and white text. And still I waited by the window as the shadows lengthened and the sky bruised into night. Frozen in a house that no longer felt like home, waiting for the sound of the door that would change everything. I remembered the way Adrian had hovered near her at that company event, how his eyes lingered just a moment too long, how their conversation seemed to hum with an intimacy that didn't belong between colleagues. At the time, I'd shrugged it off, trusting her. But now, those moments returned in sharp focus, and the pieces clicked into place with terrifying clarity. I couldn't carry this alone. So I reached out to someone I knew deserved the truth just as much as I did. Amal, Adrian's wife. She had to know. With trembling hands and a heart full of fury, I gathered everything. Every damning email, every secret text message, screenshots, receipts, hotel reservations that painted a picture too vivid to deny. I didn't sign my name. I mailed them to her anonymously, letting the truth speak for itself. The days that followed were torture. Every hour felt like waiting for a storm to break. What would she do? Would she even believe it? I told myself I'd done what I had to, that I had set the truth free. Then the call came. Her voice was tight, laced with disbelief and pain. But beneath the tremble, I heard something unexpected steal. "I want to confront him," she said, steady and low, like the calm before an explosion. "I want him to understand exactly what he's thrown away." In that moment, something shifted. We weren't just two broken people in the wake of betrayal. We were survivors, ready to reclaim what was stolen from us. Control, dignity, truth. Together, we began to plan not revenge, but justice. The confrontation had to be deliberate, clean, final. We discovered where Sophia and Adrian would be, an upscale restaurant downtown, known for its candlelight charm and whispered secrets over wine glasses. Amal and I arrived early, slipping into a quiet corner booth where shadows softened our presence. From there, we could watch every entrance, every movement. My heart thundered against my ribs, but I forced my face into calm stillness. I wasn't going to fall apart now. And then they arrived. Sophia, radiant in her deception, laughing as Adrian guided her through the door. They looked like they were in a different world, his hand resting lightly on her back, her smile too wide, too easy. They had no idea that the fantasy they'd built was about to shatter. Amal leaned slightly toward me, her eyes locked on them like a hunter preparing to strike. "This is it," she whispered. "Let's end this." We waited until their meals arrived, until they were settled in, perfectly comfortable, mid-laugh, mid-lie. Then we stood. Every step toward their table was a drumbeat in my ears. Sophia looked up first. Confusion flickered in her eyes, followed by fear as recognition dawned. Her fork hovered midair, and her mouth parted like she wanted to speak, but couldn't find the words. Amal didn't hesitate. "You think you can get away with this?" she said, voice sharp as glass, but trembling slightly at the edges. "You think the lying, the sneaking around, the pretending, it wouldn't come to light?" Adrian blinked. That infuriating smirk began to fade from his face, replaced by something much more satisfying. Panic. Sophia looked like all the color had been drained from her skin. Her hands trembled, and her eyes pleaded with me for something. Understanding, forgiveness, or perhaps denial. But I gave her nothing. They sat there, silent and stunned, unable to form excuses or reach for apologies. The weight of what we delivered settled heavy in the space around them. For the first time in a long time, I felt something real. Power.